Happy New Year. My name is Sally Taylor, and I am the creator of this small Facebook group, The Thinning Veil, and I'm very happy to have so many people who have joined us in this last year of 2023, and excited about what the new year has in store for us. So this is a very unusual thing for me to do. I am much more comfortable with one-on-one readings for people when I do them, but I thought it might be fun to do a quick tarot card reading for us as the collective consciousness of humanity on the world for the coming year. And so I'm going to use my good old Rider-Waite deck. I have been shuffling, but I'll give it one more quick shuffle before we get started. And I will use a very standard Celtic cross spread because I find that gives a lot of really good, useful information. And let's just see what the new year has in store for us and what the coming year energy will be like for our experience this year. Okay, give it a quick cut. The first card I pull is going to be the overall theme for the year. And the card that I have pulled is the Three of Swords, which tells me there will be some challenges involved in the coming year, that it's not going to be the easiest year that we have experienced thus far. Likely there will be a lot of clash between the emotions and intellectual thought processes. And so let me kind of feel into this for just a moment. Yeah, it's just has a sense of there being challenges. Now, anytime that a challenging card does come up, like the Three of Swords, I always talk about the message that comes with that card that talks about how we can work with that energy. And generally, in this case, it's about separating the emotional response from the mental thoughts, and that the thoughts create the emotions. And so if we want to experience something different than that struggle or that pain, then we need to reconsider the thoughts that are going through our heads and how do we turn them around. But let's keep going and see what else there is, because that's just a very basic card. It's a challenge, though, when a card that has some heavy energy attached to it is the first one that shows up. Let's see what's going to help or hinder that energy. Oh, and this one I love. This is the High Priestess. And in this case, it's very much going to be about what helps the struggle of the coming year. And it is going to be tapping into our natural intuition, studying the spiritual basis of our existence, of our place in the world, and leaning into that. So I want to probably come back to her, but at the moment, she's a really wonderful card to have show up on top of this challenging card of the Three of Hearts. The Three of Swords, excuse me. So let's see what comes up in the unconscious around our topic for the year. And in this case, it's the King of Swords. I immediately go to the leadership that we are choosing for ourselves. Again, there is a sharpness to this individual, and I will definitely pull more on him in just a little bit, but I want to move forward with the full reading before we go back and ask more questions. But I do feel like this is the authority that also impacts the challenges we are going to be facing this year. So part of our conflict between head and heart is going to be unconsciously supported by this authoritarian type energy. And it's going to lean into the mental aspect of that. So let's see what we're aware of around our topic. And we've got another sword, another court card sword character. So this definitely does come into new thinking and new experiences and new ways of learning and experiencing the world. So very much we are in mental processes for this coming year. Some of it is going to be the old authoritarian aspect that's kind of the basis of how we got to where we are. And then some of it's going to be the sort of open-minded learner that's going to move us forward. So again, I really like this card for where we're going. In our recent past, the Three of Cups talks about a bit of stagnation, potentially even boredom, uncertainty, again, around mostly emotions. Cups have to do with emotions, but it also has to do with a bit of a lack of awareness in our recent past. So that's another aspect that has gotten us to this maybe challenging aspect that will be coming towards us this year. And it's also an unawareness of the spiritual aspects of our reality. So that's why this High Priestess is so lovely to have as the card that's crossing our theme card of the Three of Swords, because she's definitely about tapping into, in a masterful way, that spiritual intuition and spiritual knowledge, whereas in our recent past we might have not been fully paying attention. So I like that. Whenever I talk about future, it's always in potential. The future can be changed by the choices that we make. And if we don't like it, we can absolutely change it. Since this reading is a collective conscious reading for humanity, for those shifts to occur, it has to be on a fairly broad scale. So keep that in mind when we're talking about the future. But we're talking about the potential near future with the next card. And it is the Three of Wands, which also is a very forward-looking card. It's looking at what's coming ahead and thinking creatively. So this tells me that the challenges that we will face, we are going to face head on and with planning and with a thought to the future. So that's actually very encouraging as well. You know, I always say human beings are so incredibly creative and they are intelligent. Whether or not we think that on a daily basis or not, as a whole, we're problem solvers. We really do look ahead to the future and think creatively as a group. And so this tells me that we will be looking at the challenges and the struggles that we face this year with an enlightened creative attitude that will enable our growth. So I love that. The next is the card that I'm going to pull. It will have to do with our general outlook as a collective. And in this case, we have the Eight of Cups. This card has actually shown up a lot recently, I feel. And it's definitely about moving away from what hasn't worked for us in the past. Moving away from the pain and the emotions of what was not serving us. And even though we can't see where we're going because it's dark, there's just enough light, the light of the moon, to kind of show you the next step forward. And so, again, this tells me that as humanity, we're definitely leaving behind what hasn't been working for us. And we're going to experience some more of what hasn't been working for us this year, but the general consensus is that we just need to leave it behind and move towards what's better. So again, that's really encouraging to me. I love that. The next card has to do with things that are outside of our control, typically is the placement for this card. And I'll just show you the one that comes up. And it's the wands. It's the Ace of Wands, which is really interesting because I need to feel into this one. This doesn't feel outside of our control. And I'm going to go there. That's where I'm going with this. In this case, this card is saying our experience is not outside of our control. The ability to manifest and create is something that is within us as a collective. And it's very much about deciding what we want to create and creating something new out of what we're walking away from. Oh, I have chills for that one. I love that one. That's a beautiful card as well, because it actually is completely counter to sort of the typical meaning for the placement. It's a rejection of that concept. Love it. I love it. Next card is Hopes and Fears for the year. And this again tells me that as a collective, we are very positive overall. Not that the negative's not there, not that there's not the naysayers, and not that there's not people who will be somewhat backwards compared to the rest of humanity. But as a whole, humanity's very positive about where we're going this year, and we have hopes for a good future. There's no fear attached to the Sun card. It is just pure positivity. So it does tell me that this year is about moving away from fear, moving away from that which hasn't worked for us in the past, moving away from the negative thoughts that create the hard emotions, which of course is the theme card for our reading. I love that. That's fantastic. And then final card is again a potential outcome based on where we are right now and where we're going. It's another court card. And this speaks to the leadership of the feminine aspect. So, and we've known that the feminine has been rising for some time now. Our cultures are very much changing from the standard patriarchal authority that has been in place for most of all of our lives, unless you're quite young, in which case you've been seeing the feminine become more and more in her power. And I do feel like this can even be a very 3D physical world. We're going to have more women in leadership roles. In the coming year, we do have elections here in the US this year. So that suggests to me we will have more women in this country coming into leadership roles. But of course, we're talking about this in terms of the collective consciousness of humanity. And I feel like this will also suggest the rise of the divine feminine and the intellectual feminine as we move away from this patriarchal figure of the past. And not to say that men are not a very important part of this process. The divine masculine is every bit as sacred and important in our development, but the feminine has been subjected to a lesser role for quite a long time. And this does speak, I believe, to the continuing rise of female authority. And by authority, I mean the fact that women, let me say this the way I meant to say it, lead with balance as a primary goal. So women don't reject the importance of the masculine in the roles that they also are meant to fulfill. She's just coming into balance. Okay, fantastic. Let me see if I need to look at any of these cards again. I said I was going to come back to some of these court cards, but because often they'll stump you for a half a minute. But to be honest, look at all of these swords court cards. We had the page for learning and coming into new knowledge and awareness. We had the old system of the patriarchy and the coming of the feminine leadership. And there will be some growing pains attached to all of it. Look at all the swords. A lot of swords in this particular reading. There will be some growing pains attached to that and some emotional distress. But we are creative individuals who are in charge of our own development and our own manifestation and our own mastery. And we can move away from what hasn't worked for us in the past. So this turned out to be a really lovely, beautiful reading for the year ahead. I wish you all the very best. I hope that if you do experience some of that struggle between the head and the heart, that you can lean into the balance within your own life to find mastery over both your thoughts and your emotions, because they are an important aspect to our own peace and our own happiness. Anyway, once again, Happy New Year. I wish you all the very best, and I look forward to seeing you more on The Thinning Veil.